Good morning, it's Wednesday, the 24th of June. You're watching Euronews, and this is Europe Today. Welcome to the program, I'm Stefan Grobe. Coming up, Together for Ukraine. Against the backdrop of Europe seeking to play a greater role in efforts to end the war in Ukraine, the leaders of Europe's 5 militarily leading states will come together in Berlin this afternoon. The E5 meeting, chaired by Germany's Friedrich Merz at the Chancellery, will discuss strengthening Ukraine's defense and sanctions against Russia. Joining Merz are the leaders of France, Italy, Poland, and Britain, despite the current political drama in London. War or peace in Iran? Lower-level negotiators are continuing to engage in what officials described as technical talks in Switzerland following the departure of the principals, US Vice President J.D. Vance and the Iranian top negotiators. The main sticking point? What happens to Iran's nuclear capabilities? We'll talk to Wendy Sherman, who was Barack Obama's lead negotiator for the Iran nuclear deal back in 2015. War or peace in Lebanon? While the US and Iran hash it out at the negotiation table, Israel still has none of it. The country will continue its offensive on Lebanon until Hezbollah is fully dismantled, not just disarmed, Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich said. This comes as criticism grows inside Israel over Washington's handling of talks with Iran. We'll hear the latest from our correspondent in Tyre. And what happened at the World Cup last night? I will fill you in. But first, Ukraine. As the war grinds on and uncertainty over future US support lingers, leaders of the European 5, that's Germany, France, Italy, Poland, and Britain, are stepping up diplomatic efforts. At a meeting in Berlin later today, they plan to discuss support for Ukraine amid ongoing Russian aggression and to strengthen security in Europe. During the event, NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte plans to join online, which aligns with preparations for the July NATO summit in Ankara. For more on this, I'm joined on set by our correspondent, Sasha Vakulina. Good morning, Sasha.
Morning, Stefan.
So, bring us up to speed. What are the exact topics this afternoon?
Well, the leaders are going to discuss some of the conclusions of the G7 summit in Evian in France when it comes to providing more support for Ukraine, specifically, of course, when it comes to air defense. Now, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said last night that what he wants to see is the exact planning and the schedule for the deliveries of the air defense as agreed at the G7 summit. But also with Donald Trump, of course, pushing Europe to take more responsibility and to take more of the burden. This will be another important topic because just over the past couple of days, Ukraine and Germany agreed to develop anti-ballistic capabilities, which is a huge development when it comes to Europe's role in the general, security architecture and the capabilities, not leaving that and anti-ballistic air defense with the US production only. And of course, the optics are very interesting for Keir Starmer. That might be very well his farewell meeting with the other leaders, and we'll see how that goes. And Volodymyr Zelensky is probably joining the conversation as well online.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting atmosphere. You mentioned Keir Starmer on his way out, and then the Polish Prime Minister, Donald Tusk, who is embroiled in this, escalation with Ukraine, diplomatic escalation. What do you make of this?
Indeed. We have to watch that meeting in Berlin very closely to see if there's going to be any contact between Tusk and Zelensky as well. Ukraine Recovery Conference is starting tomorrow in Poland, in Gdańsk. After so much speculation, Zelensky's office confirmed that he is not going to be in Poland, and instead Ukraine's delegation will be led by Ukraine's Prime Minister. Now, Yulia Sviridenko herself tried to strike a very cautious tone and to focus on investment and business opportunities on the conference. She just very briefly commented on her intentions as she's going to be leading this delegation, saying Ukraine respects its partners and builds cooperation on the principle of mutual respect. And that's it. Now, at the same time, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk is trying to sort this out and trying to find the way out of this very much escalated diplomatic crisis between Warsaw and Kyiv. And he said he is not willing to add more fuel into that fire. And he said, given Poland's strategic security, I will not have a hand in fueling these tensions. It is in the long-term interests of Poland to build relations with Ukraine based on a vision of the future. And indeed, with Russia waging its war against Ukraine for over 4 years now, both Ukraine and Poland don't have other options and other choice apart from coordinating and cooperating when it comes to security, geopolitics, and the mutual respect and relations between these two neighboring countries.
Yeah, hot temperatures outside as well as inside in Berlin. Sasha, thank you very much. Moving on to the other global hotspot. The first round of negotiations between the United States and Iran and Switzerland has ended with encouraging progress, mediators from Qatar and Pakistan said. For The View from an experienced diplomat, Euronews' Maeve McMahon spoke to Wendy Sherman, Barack Obama's chief negotiator on the 2015 Iran nuclear agreement. She asked her about her thoughts on the long road ahead to a peace agreement.
I don't think that President Trump should have undertaken this war. It has been disastrous, not only for the people in the United States, but for people all around the world and for the people in Iran, which is how he started all of this, but their lives are worse, not better. So given where we are, I think we are all glad that the Strait of Hormuz is opening. I wouldn't say it is open really fully yet, but opening. I think it's good that they are negotiating, but what is really occurring is not clear because the United States is saying one thing and Iran is saying something else. But better to have talks than not.
Indeed, it's better to talk. And just based on your assessment on what we know so far, on your understanding of the framework deal, what is your first takeaway, if you like?
Well, my first takeaway is the MOU gives Iran quite a bit for not very much. Really, it's to get the Strait of Hormuz open and get the world economy moving again. For the United States to remove all oil sanctions after 40 years of sanctions is just extraordinary. It's quite a price to pay for getting the Strait open. I think that if the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, gets back into Iran, even though Iran says that is not agreed, that would be a very positive thing because you can't do anything in the negotiations or anything that you resolve without knowing that you can verify and monitor what the reality is. And we need the IAEA on the ground to be able to do that. I'm glad they're discussing Lebanon, if they are indeed doing so. Israel has said they are beginning talks with Lebanon. I think that the president of Lebanon has said that he requires Israel to leave all of their occupation of Lebanon. There's a very long way to go. In fact, I think at the end of the day, unfortunately, Iran is in a stronger position, not a weaker one.
Does that mean Iran has essentially won this war?
I do think that Iran has certainly put itself in a stronger position. They can close the Strait of Hormuz at any point that they want. They have shown that they are resilient, that a military effort alone cannot undo them, which I've known for a long time. The only good thing that's come out of this is that perhaps that people have finally understood that diplomacy is necessary. Military action will not solve this problem.
And we see it's Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, the main negotiators here. Do you think they have enough understanding of the complexity of the issues?
Well, I think the problem is that to do this negotiation, you really need a team of people. You need nuclear physicists, people who understand sanctions, people who understand currency, intelligence assets, lawyers, a whole team. And it doesn't appear that that exists now.
And you, of course, personally know the Iranian foreign minister. You negotiated with him in the past on the Iran nuclear deal. What cards do you think he'll play this time around?
Well, Abbas Araghchi is very smart, very capable, very litigious, as all Iranian negotiators are. Every word matters. Agreement on it matters. Details matter. What I really fear is that we've put Iran in a stronger position to dictate the terms of peace in Lebanon. And that is not good for Israel. Quite frankly, that's not good for anyone among the Gulf states or in the region.
We've seen American taxpayers paying the price of this war, but also here in Europe, but Europeans not having much of a say in the negotiations. Any tips or advice for European leaders on what card they should be playing here?
I think continuing to have dialogue with the United States in whatever way you can with Secretary Rubio and others, with any ambassadors or chargés that are in place, to make your interests known and how you might help as we all hope for more peace in the future and less horror.
Maeve McMahon there speaking to veteran U.S. negotiator Wendy Sherman. The path to peace is bumpy. After 2 days of relative calm, Israeli troops opened fire in southern Lebanon yesterday, killing 2 people and wounding 2. The Israeli military said it struck armed terrorists, while Hezbollah spoke of a blatant violation of the truce. Let's head over to Tyre now, where our correspondent Ekbal Zain has the latest for us from that theater of war. Good morning, Ekbal. So what is the situation on the ground this morning, and how do people feel about the peace talks in Switzerland?
Well, life is returning slowly to the city of Sur, although the destruction is massive and the airstrikes have left their impact everywhere. Yesterday, I went to the street and I spoke to people to see their perception of the ceasefire and whether they think that the war will return or not. What I've seen is that people are cautious, but there is more hope than we have seen in the previous rounds of negotiations, and many believe that the Iranian efforts have paved the way for a ceasefire in Lebanon. At the same time, there is this concern about the Israeli refusal to withdraw from southern Lebanon, and that this situation may become prolonged and similar to the occupation that lasted until the year 2000. On the other hand, others believe that the Israeli military might withdraw under military and international pressure. Let's take a listen.
From our perspective, looking at the situation regarding the ceasefire, well, we don't see any stability. We certainly rule out a resumption of the war, and we hope, God willing, that the ceasefire holds. I belong to a generation that has known many wars. I was born in 1983, and since then I have lived through 3 wars waged by Israel. This enemy only pulls out by force.
So, Iqbal, the situation in Lebanon is so volatile, partly because Hezbollah refuses to disarm. Do you see that happening anytime soon?
When we talk about the disarmament of Hezbollah, there is always those questions about whether it's by force or negotiations or in south of Litani only or all over Lebanon. In south of Litani, Hezbollah has previously linked its handing over its weapon to a full Israeli withdrawal from the Lebanese territory. As for all of Lebanon, it has linked it to a national defense strategy, which he says that the government has failed to provide. But also for the implementation of the disarmament, the Lebanese army, as you know, is tasked to do this. But the Lebanese army has its own challenges because it have so far avoided to go into this confrontation with Hezbollah to protect and preserve the civil peace, and on the other hand to protect its own unit. What I've seen when I talk to people is that there is also a clear polarization among people, because many of the southern people feel that the Lebanese state and the Lebanese army have abandoned them. So I think this file is very critical at the moment and will not be solved in the short term and needs a national, responsible and a long dialogue.
All right, Iqbal Zain, thank you very much for that update. Let's go to Spain now, where Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez faces the heat. And I'm not talking about the scorching temperatures. Allegations of corruption involving close allies and top members of his Socialist Party have triggered a political storm, with the opposition accusing him of presiding over a culture of influence peddling and demanding early elections. Sánchez denies any wrongdoing and insists he's the target of a campaign aimed at bringing down his government. For more, let's head over to our correspondent Cristina Tuquier in Madrid. Good morning, Christina. So Pedro Sánchez is due to appear before Congress today. How serious is this moment for the Prime Minister and for the Socialist Party?
Good morning from Madrid. This is without a doubt one of the biggest political crises that Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has faced since he came to power. On Monday, one of his former close allies, former Transport Minister José Luis Ábalos, was sentenced to over 24 years in prison in a corruption case. And let's not forget, it is not the only case surrounding the Spanish Prime Minister at the moment. In his close political and personal circle, several people are facing corruption charges, including his brother and his wife. Now, these allegations are very serious for Pedro Sánchez, who has built his whole political career around transparency, democracy, and fighting corruption. So it is expected today that he in Congress will try to persuade his coalition partners to maintain his government in power and to try to show them that he is still a trustworthy leader.
Yeah, you mentioned it. What should we expect from his appearance in Congress? And could these scandals threaten the survival of his government?
They absolutely can. So today we are expecting Sánchez and his ministers to try to make a separation between these cases and the Socialist Party. They will try to argue that these corruption cases are because of individual actions, that the party has taken the necessary measures, and that they are not a symptom of a systemic corruption in the Socialist Party, which is exactly what the opposition has been saying from the very beginning. So this is a very big problem for Sánchez, who's also facing this week 2 votes, one in the Senate, one in the Congress. Even though they're not legally binding, they're very telling, as they will show whether or not he still has support from his coalition partners and the Parliament and the Senate. So this week will be crucial for Pedro Sánchez as he is facing a lot of political turmoil.
Wow, that's all I can say. Christina Tikia in Madrid for us. Thank you for helping us understand this situation. And now it's time for the World Cup. Cristiano Ronaldo wrote himself into the football record books as Portugal thrashed Uzbekistan 5-0. The 41-year-old became the first player ever to score at 6 World Cups and now trails early Golden Boot pace setter Lionel Messi by 3 goals. It was Portugal's first win at this tournament, putting them all but through to the next round. Big disappointment in England. The Three Lions drew a blank in their second game against Ghana, despite an almost 80% ball possession. Remember, England was seen as one of the top favorites before the tournament. Well, that status seems to be diminished now. The 0-0 was rather a reality check by stubborn Ghana and left Group L in the balance. Largely because Croatia beat Panama 1-0 and remained in contention for a last 32 spot. A win on Saturday against Ghana would confirm Croatia's place in the knockout phase. On the other hand, Panama's second defeat means they are eliminated from the tournament. And finally, Colombia went to bed with a 1-0 victory against Congo. That means they are through to the knockouts and have a top spot in Group K in their own hands, while Congo will likely need a win to progress as one of the best third-place teams. 6 games on the menu tonight and early tomorrow morning. Among them, Switzerland against Canada, Scotland versus Brazil, and the Czech Republic against Mexico. That does it for us today. Thank you for joining us this morning. If you want to continue the conversation, send us your questions or comments via our email address, europetoday@euronews.com. In the meantime, stay with us for more of the latest news live here on Euronews. I'm Stefan Grobe. Take care and see you tomorrow.